Cleveland Browns should be starting Shedeur Sanders this upcoming season. There is nothing to gain from the Deshaun Watson experience except these last hope attempts that maybe some pennies would be worth it on a deal that has not been.
This is the truest quarterback competition in the NFL. What I mean by that is whoever performs best in training camp should be the week one.
There is a young quarterback in the National Football League right now who is running routes in the summer heat, outpacing veterans, turning every single head on that practice field. And the franchise that drafted him is sitting in a room somewhere seriously debating whether to hand the job back to a guy who has given them absolutely nothing. Let that land for a second. The Cleveland Browns have Shedeur Sanders, the most electric, most scrutinized, most talked about young signal caller in the entire league, grinding in cotton clothes and bolt cleats, moving with the kind of natural fluid athleticism you simply cannot manufacture, and their front office is still treating this like an open question. This is not a quarterback competition. Do not let anyone sell you that framing. What is happening in Cleveland right now is an organizational ego protection exercise dressed up in training camp language. And by the time this video is done, you are going to understand exactly who benefits from keeping Shedeur Sanders off that field on opening day. Spoiler, it is not the Browns, and it is absolutely not the fans. Before we go any further, I need you to drop a comment right now. Just one word. Future if you think Cleveland should commit to Sanders fully, or mistake if you think this front office will find a way to go backward. I want to see where Gridiron Ground stands on this, because this decision is about to define a franchise. Let us get into it.
Before going further, if you're enjoying this video, don't forget to smash that subscribe button. It really helps us keep bringing you the content you love. Share this video with your friends so they don't miss out on all the drama and excitement.
The two routes, okay? Route one. He exceeds expectations and shows that he could be an NFL quarterback. Wonderful. The other route, which is the ends of the board, are, yeah, this guy's
Being said, you must start Shedeur Sanders simply because, for one, he was playing under the worst offensive line. I don't care what quarterback.
To understand what Shedeur Sanders is actually capable of, you first have to understand what he was asked to survive last season. Because the national media has done a masterclass in presenting his statistics without a single ounce of honest context. And if you watched those studio segments and walked away thinking Sanders struggled because he is not good enough, you were misled. Deliberately, consistently, and almost maliciously misled. Start with the offensive line. By multiple credible accounts from analysts who cover this league for a living, the protection in front of Sanders last season was not just bad. It was historically, categorically, embarrassingly broken. We are talking about one of the worst units anyone covering professional football had seen operating at that level. Think about what that actually means for a moment. Think about what it means to be a rookie quarterback trying to process an NFL defense, trying to work through your progressions, trying to execute a game plan, when the men in front of you cannot hold their assignments long enough for you to finish your first read. You are not playing quarterback at that point. You are surviving. You are making split-second panic decisions under pressure that no offensive system is designed to handle. You are taking hits before your eyes have even finished scanning the field. And every incompletion, every bad decision, every ugly play that came out of that environment got clipped, packaged, and presented on national television like it was a character revelation about Shedeur Sanders rather than an inevitable product of catastrophic infrastructure failure. Then layer on what was waiting for him on the outside. The receiver room around Sanders last season was thin, inexperienced, and unreliable. No separation, no reliability, no genuine playmaking threat that could stress a defense horizontally and create the kind of one-and-on opportunities that make any quarterback's job manageable. No time in the pocket. No weapons on the outside. That was the full picture. That was the complete environment this young man was dropped into without the luxury of a learning curve, without the protection of a veteran system, without any of the structural support that franchises typically provide when they are serious about developing a young quarterback. In NFL Live, ESPN, the major national platforms, they took the numbers that came out of that environment and they put them on the screen next to Sanders' name like they were gospel. Like the statistics existed in a vacuum. Like you could separate a quarterback's performance from the historically broken infrastructure producing it and still arrive at something meaningful. That is not analysis, that is a hit piece with better graphics. But here is what those segments never told you. Sanders kept showing up. He kept processing. He kept working. Every rep, every snap, every impossible situation, he was absorbing information, building football IQ, developing the internal resilience that separates quarterbacks who eventually figure it out from the ones who get buried by early adversity. He was not failing, he was being forged. And what the Browns built around him, this offseason tells you everything about what comes next.
Before going further, if you're enjoying this video, don't forget to smash that subscribe button. It really helps us keep bringing you the content you love. Share this video with your friends so they don't miss out on all the drama and excitement.
Cleveland Browns should be starting Shedeur Sanders this upcoming season. There is nothing to gain from the Deshaun Watson experience except these last hope attempts that maybe some pennies would be worth it on a deal that has not.
Here is the part of this story that the front office desperately does not want framed this clearly. Because when you strip away the careful language, the measured press conference answers, and the "we are evaluating everything" corporate speak, what you are left with is a simple and uncomfortable truth. The Cleveland Browns are not keeping this quarterback competition open because they genuinely believe Deshaun Watson gives them the best chance to win. They are keeping it open because closing it means publicly owning one of the most catastrophic financial decisions in modern NFL history. Watson's contract is still on the books. The guaranteed money, the staggering, almost incomprehensible sum that this franchise committed to a quarterback who had not played meaningful football in years at the time of signing, that commitment is still sitting on the balance sheet. And every single day the front office maintains even the thinnest fiction that Watson is a legitimate starting option, they are doing two things simultaneously. They are protecting themselves from the full public accounting of that disaster, and they are doing it at the direct expense of Shedeur Sanders' development, his momentum, his confidence, and his future. That is sunk cost psychology operating at the franchise level. It is the same mental trap that keeps bad investors holding onto failing assets long after the rational exit window has closed, because selling means admitting the original decision was wrong. And organizations, like individual people, will go to extraordinary lengths to avoid that admission. The problem is that sunk cost decisions in business cost you money. Sunk cost decisions in the NFL cost you years. They cost you development windows that do not reopen. They cost you the compounding growth of a young quarterback who needed those reps, needed those games, needed that competitive experience during the exact window when it would have done the most good. There are also reports and rumblings in league circles, nothing confirmed but worth noting, that some within the organization have privately acknowledged Watson is unlikely to recapture anything close to his pre-injury form. If those whispers reflect anything real, then the competition framing becomes even more difficult to defend. You would essentially be asking a fan base to wait while the front office stages a process designed to arrive at a conclusion everyone already knows. Now, to be clear, Watson has every right to compete. No one is taking that away from him. The problem is not Watson, the player fighting for his professional life. The problem is an organizational structure that appears more interested in managing its own narrative around Watson than in making the obvious football decision in front of them. Institutions that cannot admit their mistakes are institutions that keep repeating them. That is not drama, that is simply what the pattern shows. And the pattern in Cleveland has been running long enough that the fans deserve better than another season of carefully managed ambiguity. Something has to give. While the debate rages in studios and front office conference rooms, Shedeur Sanders is not waiting for anyone to make up their mind. He is already doing the work, he has been doing the work, and the people watching it firsthand are not hiding their reactions. Reports coming out of Sanders' offseason training sessions paint a picture that should end this conversation immediately if the Browns' front office is paying any attention at all. Cotton clothes, bolt cleats, summer heat, and a young quarterback moving with the kind of precise, technically sharp, physically explosive athleticism that makes observers stop and stare. Not because it is flashy, because it is real.
Before going further, if you're enjoying this video, don't forget to smash that subscribe button. It really helps us keep bringing you the content you love. Share this video with your friends so they don't miss out on all the drama and excitement.
Because it is the kind of movement that tells trained football eyes this player has elite natural tools and the discipline to develop them. He is not just showing up and running through drills. He is studying Todd Monken's offensive system with the kind of detail-oriented intensity that coaches talk about when they describe players who become students of the game rather than just participants in it. He is building chemistry with teammates before training camp officially opens. He is doing the relationship work, the trust-building work, the invisible preparation work that never shows up in a highlight clip, but always shows up in September when a team needs its quarterback to manage a 2-minute drive with the season on the line. The footwork reports are particularly significant. Footwork for a quarterback is everything. It is the foundation of every throw, every decision, every timing route. And the people watching Sanders work this offseason are talking about footwork that is already meaningfully sharper, more deliberate, more technically consistent than what they saw during his rookie year. That is not random. That is the product of a young man who watched his rookie film, identified his mechanical deficiencies, and attacked them with focused repetition over an entire offseason. That is what franchise quarterbacks do. That is the behavior pattern that separates the ones who figure it out from the ones who are still trying to figure it out 3 years in. And here is what makes this offseason preparation even more significant. Sanders is not doing it in a vacuum. He is doing it with full knowledge that the job is technically still open, that the front office has not committed to him publicly, that every rep is being watched and evaluated. And he is responding to that pressure by working harder, not by demanding clarity, not by complaining through unnamed sources to beat writers, not by doing anything other than exactly what you want your starting quarterback to do. That is character that cannot be coached. That is the mentality that wins locker rooms before a single regular season snap is taken. The question is not whether Shedeur Sanders is doing everything in his power to earn the job. He already has. The question is whether the people making the decision are willing to see it. This is the detail that does not get nearly enough attention in the national conversation. And once you see it clearly, the front office's hesitation stops looking like careful deliberation and starts looking like something far less defensible. This offseason, the Cleveland Browns went out and spent. They invested heavily in the offensive line, the same offensive line that was by credible accounts as dysfunctional as anything seen at this level last season. They added youth, athleticism, and experience to a unit that desperately needed all three. The protection picture heading into this season is measurably, tangibly improved, not perfect, but real. Then they addressed the receiving core. Jerry Jeudy is in that building. A legitimate, separation-creating, field-stretching weapon who at his best gives a quarterback exactly the kind of reliable outside option that Sanders never had last season. Harif Fenton is there. Branzel Boston is there. The receiver room that was thin and unreliable during Sanders' rookie year has been upgraded with players who can actually stress a defense, create separation, and give a quarterback a reason to trust his eyes when he throws into tight windows. And they brought in Todd Monken to run the offense. An offensive mind with a track record of putting quarterbacks in position to succeed, of building systems around what players do well rather than asking them to execute a rigid scheme they were never built for. Now think about all of that together. Offensive line investment, receiving core upgrade, offensive coordinator upgrade. Every single one of those moves makes the most sense when viewed through the lens of accelerating the development of a young quarterback with a high ceiling. None of those moves make sense as investments in a quarterback situation built around Deshaun Watson. Watson is not the future those roster decisions are pointing toward. The spending pattern tells you exactly what the front office's football logic says, even if their public statements will not. Which creates a contradiction so glaring it is almost difficult to articulate calmly. The Cleveland Browns organization spent a significant amount of money and resources this offseason building the exact environment. A young developmental quarterback needs to take a legitimate leap forward. And then they turned around and maintained a competition that keeps that young quarterback in a state of organizational uncertainty, heading into the most important training camp of his career. You cannot build for a future and hedge against it simultaneously. At some point, the investment and the decision have to align, and right now they do not. Every analyst paying attention to this roster construction understands what it is saying. Every scout watching that receiving core upgrade understands who those pieces were acquired for. Every coaching observer watching Monken's offensive installation understands which quarterback that system was designed to develop. The Browns built this for Sanders. Now they just have to be honest enough to admit it out loud. The credible football voices who have weighed in on this situation are not split. They are not hedging. They are not offering the kind of carefully balanced on one hand, on the other hand analysis that fills airtime without actually saying anything. They are saying the quiet part directly, clearly, and on the record. Start with this framing that surfaced from analysts covering the Browns' quarterback room. This is being called the truest quarterback competition in the NFL, and the important word there is not competition, it is truest. Because what that framing implies, what it quietly but unmistakably communicates, is that unlike other situations around the league where a veteran might get a job by default or a young player gets protected by sitting behind experience, in Cleveland the standard is supposed to be pure performance. Whoever is better gets the job, that is the stated premise. And here is what makes that premise so revealing. Because if the standard is genuinely performance-based, and every indicator we have about what Sanders is showing in workouts points toward elite preparation and physical readiness, then maintaining the competition at all starts to feel less like fair evaluation, and more like manufactured ambiguity designed to give the organization an exit ramp back to Watson if the front office decides it needs one. Then there is the two-outcome framework that has been laid out by football voices who are engaging with this situation with real intellectual honesty. The argument goes like this. If you start Shedeur Sanders this season, one of two things happens. Either he exceeds expectations, confirms he's your franchise quarterback, and you build around him going forward, or he shows that he's not moving the needle, and you have real information, real clarity, and the draft capital to go get your next answer. Notice what is absent from that framework. Watson succeeding as a starting quarterback is not one of the outcomes being seriously modeled by credible analysts. The conversation among the football voices paying closest attention to this situation has already moved past that. They are not analyzing Watson as a realistic path forward. They are analyzing Sanders as either the answer or the clarifying question. That is a significant tell about where informed opinion actually sits on this matter. And then there is the offensive line argument that keeps surfacing from these same voices. The consistent, emphatic, hard to argue against point that any evaluation of Sanders' rookie year statistics has to be filtered through the reality of what he was working with up front. The argument is not complicated. No quarterback, regardless of experience or talent level, produces clean numbers behind historically broken protection. The statistics were a product of the environment, not a reflection of the player's ceiling. Taken together, the analyst consensus is not ambiguous. Sanders has earned the start, the information is there, the voices are saying it. The only question left is whether the front office is listening. Let us talk about where this road actually leads. Because the decision being made in Cleveland right now is not just about week 1. It is about the next 3 to 5 years of this franchise's competitive trajectory, and the two paths available could not produce more different outcomes. Path 1, the Browns start Shedeur Sanders on opening day. He steps behind a genuinely improved offensive line with real weapons on the outside and an offensive coordinator who has built systems that allow young quarterbacks to play fast and play confident. The defense, which was legitimately solid last season even as the offense collapsed around it, does not need 30 points a week. It needs efficiency. It needs third down conversions. It needs drives that eat clock and give the defensive unit rest. Sanders can provide that, and if he does, this team is a surprise in the AFC North. Not necessarily a Super Bowl contender, but a team that wins more games than anyone is currently projecting, builds genuine competitive identity, and gives the fan base something real to invest in emotionally heading into next offseason. More importantly, Sanders himself enters year 2 with the developmental momentum that compounds. Each game, each win, each tough loss processed from the starting position accelerates his growth in ways that no amount of practice can replicate. That is the path that points somewhere good. Path 2, the front office blinks. They find any reason to keep Watson in the conversation past the point where the evidence demands a decision. Maybe they frame it as protecting a young player. Maybe they cite competitive urgency early in the season. Whatever the language, the result is the same. Sanders loses irreplaceable developmental reps. The fan base, which has absorbed years of broken promises and organizational confusion, does not respond with patience this time. The revolt is immediate and it is loud. And front offices that manage fan revolts while simultaneously producing losing football do not stay intact. The organizational instability that follows a wrong call here does not just cost a season. It potentially costs the front office its credibility, its leverage in free agency, and its ability to recruit the coaching talent that any genuine rebuild requires. There are also credible rumblings, unconfirmed but circulating among people who follow this organization closely, that internal frustration with the direction of the quarterback situation is already present within the building. Nothing explosive, nothing sourced to specific individuals, but the kind of ambient tension that surfaces when a locker room senses organizational indecision at the most important position on the field. Two paths, one pointing forward, one pointing backward. The evidence, the analyst consensus, the roster construction, the offseason preparation, and frankly basic football logic all point to the same door. The Browns just have to walk through it. And if they do not, what happens next will not be subtle. Let us be completely precise about what is actually being asked of the Cleveland Browns front office right now, because this is not a complicated football decision buried under layers of nuance that require months of evaluation to untangle. This is a straightforward choice between organizational honesty and organizational ego protection, and everyone watching knows it. Starting Shedeur Sanders is not a guarantee of success. Nobody credible is claiming it is. Sanders could struggle early. He could face the inevitable growing pains that come with any young quarterback's development at this level. There will be bad games. There will be moments where the national media, which has shown a remarkable willingness to strip context from his performances, will run the ugly clips and ask the obvious questions. None of that changes the calculation. Because the argument for starting Sanders is not that he will be perfect. The argument is that starting him is the only rational forward-looking decision available regardless of outcome. If he plays well, you have your quarterback. If he struggles behind genuinely better infrastructure than he had last year and still cannot move the needle, you have real information and a clear direction heading into the next draft cycle. Either outcome is actionable, either outcome advances the franchise. Sitting Watson behind center produces neither. It produces another season of organizational paralysis, another year of developmental stagnation for a young quarterback whose window is not infinite, and another entry in the long record of Cleveland Browns decision-making that this fan base will have to carry with them into the future. The front office accountability question is this: when this season ends, however it ends, will the people making decisions right now be able to stand in front of a camera and honestly say they gave Shedeur Sanders every possible opportunity to succeed, not a compromised opportunity, not a hedged opportunity, a real one, with real protection, real weapons, real offensive infrastructure, and the full trust of the organization behind him from day one? If the answer to that question is yes, then whatever happens this season, the franchise is pointed in the right direction. If the answer is no, if it turns out that Sanders spent another season managing organizational ambiguity while the front office protected its sunk cost, then the accountability will not be confined to a press conference. It will show up in attendance numbers, in viewership, in free agent interest, and eventually in the kind of front office restructuring that organizations only undertake when the damage has already been done. The people making this call need to understand that the fans are watching, not just the game, the process, the decision-making, the honesty. Gridiron Ground is watching. And we are going to be here to document every development, every twist, every consequence of whatever call gets made in that building. Because that is what we do here. We follow the truth wherever it goes. Here is what every honest football observer already knows. Shedeur Sanders survived a broken system last season without breaking. He came out the other side working harder, preparing smarter, and moving with the kind of elite physical precision that is turning heads before training camp even officially opens. The Browns built a better offensive line. They upgraded the receiver room. They brought in an offensive coordinator whose system is designed to develop exactly the kind of quarterback Sanders is becoming. Every piece is in place. Every credible voice is saying the same thing. Every logical outcome of starting Sanders is better for this franchise than the alternative. The only variable left is organizational courage. So here is your forced choice for the Gridiron Ground comments right now. Do you trust this Cleveland Browns front office to make the right call, or do you think they find a way to protect the past one more time? Drop trust or protect in the comments, and let us see where this community actually stands. If you are new here, hit subscribe and turn on notifications because this story is not close to finished. We will see you in the next one.
This is the truest quarterback competition in the NFL. What I mean by that is whoever performs best in training camp should be the week one.
It's the two routes, okay? Route one, he exceeds expectations and shows that he can be an NFL quarterback. Wonderful. The other route, which is the ends of the board, are, this guy's...
If you're enjoying this video, don't forget to smash that subscribe button. It really helps us keep bringing you the content you love. Share this video with your friends so they don't miss out on all the drama and excitement.